Thanks for tuning in to more NFL Draft Talk on the Our Football Network on Inside Our NFL Depth Charts. And we're going to take a look at 16 depth charts as quickly as we can. That's the NFC. We did the AFC last week. And, of course, Ryan Dunleavy is joining us from the New York Post. How's everything going, Ryan?
What's up, Greg?
I'm ready. I mean, I think everybody's ready, especially if you're a Jet fan or even a Giant fan. But Jet fans and any fan that has like one of those top picks that had a terrible year just can't wait for this draft to start.
Yeah, and you know the Jaguars and Jets will both wait 9.5 minutes to make it.
Please. I know. That's I mean, in the days when it was all in one day, it was probably more unforgiving. Now it's like, it's only one round in the one day, and you understand why they do. The Our Lads 2021 guide's out. So I just got my copy. Here it is. So you can check it out. No more 2020 copy for me to be throwing on this screen. 2021's out. Ryan, you got your copy of sorts?
It's in my email. Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, I know it's a great time of year for us draft nicks, I guess, if you want to call us that. We're just NFL fans. That's just about, and college football fans. And hey, by the way, speaking of college football fans, how's our Rutgers team doing recruiting wise, huh?
Greg Schiano's done a nice job there, yeah.
I know it's not going to last, them being ranked 6th in the nation for the 2022 recruiting cycle, but it is kind of nice just to hear that Rutgers is 6th in the nation in recruiting for 2022.
Got to get them signed. Get them the signing day.
Here's, just so you know, here's all of my notes for, look how many notes I have just for on both sides of paper. This is just for 16. This is just for the show today. And it's funny. I have a picture, and I said I was going to show you the picture last week. It was the one with the Belichick Mangini. So now I've got to definitely send you my old pictures, because I had an old picture that I found not too long ago, and I was probably about 10 years old. And it's a picture we're at the pool, and we got the big blanket and everything. And I'm sitting there, and you could tell, not only am I actually writing in my notebook, but there's like papers on the. So I was like ahead of my day with like fantasy writing.
Doing like health scouting report.
I had my little like fantasy dream going. I just didn't know, I was too young to understand how to put a fantasy league together. Back in the day when nobody understood. Actually, when was the first rotisserie league? When did it actually start?
It's in that book. I think it was in the 80s. There's a great book on it, but I can't remember the name of it. But there's a book on it from the 80s, a bunch of guys who did it by hand.
There you go. So, and that's maybe old style, but it works for me. So, that's why you do it too, right?
I take a lot of handwritten notes. I take a lot of handwritten notes because I think it gets into, when you handwrite something, for me at least, it sticks in my memory more than typing it on a keyboard.
Agreed. Okay, let's start with the Niners. We're going to go in the order of the draft for the NFC teams. They moved up to number 3. It's all about the quarterback. And even though it's all about the quarterback, nobody knows what's going to happen because, I mean, just recently, Fields became the odds-on favorite in Vegas. Yet, that's not the quarterback that you think San Francisco is going to take, which just proves that it's anybody's guess on which way they're going to go here.
I actually think Fields is the third most likely guy. I think he's the third best quarterback, so he should be the pick based on ability. But I don't think he's the best fit for Kyle Shanahan's offense. So I would actually say he's the third most likely of the quarterbacks to go there. Never bet against Vegas, right? I'm bet against me, not bet against Vegas. But to me, I think the pick is really between either Trey Lance, a slight underdog, to Mac Jones.
Okay, well, I mean, that would just be something if the Niners... Look, nobody expected the Giants to take Daniel Jones. Most of the nation did not expect them to take him.
I did. I did. I picked it. Yep. I had some pretty good insight there that's who we're going to take.
There you go. So. And so with this particular situation, we know it's a possibility now, but if the trade would have been made like on draft day, like, and you only had 5 minutes, Nobody
Yeah.
would have, and let's just say Mac Jones becomes the guy. Nobody would have
Yeah.
guessed that Mac Jones would have
It's
went.
hard, it's hard to. I know it's 2 different years, but it's hard to believe Mac Jones is going to be drafted higher than Tua Tagovailoa.
That could happen. Yeah, it is.
Shouldn't probably happen.
And
Yeah.
you know, it's one of those things where you definitely look at a guy like Mac Jones and look, you understand. You could say to yourself, sure, because none of those other quarterbacks after Lawrence are can't miss guys. Of course, Mac Jones can end up being the best of the bunch. That wouldn't surprise me in the least. I mean, he's got enough talent. Do I think he will
Yeah.
be? No. Could he be? Sure. But it just shows you that teams nowadays, I think they're taking more risks. You know, I think they're saying, you
They
know what? I think he's that guy, and I don't care what anybody says. I'm going after him.
correct. That's what they're doing. Yep.
All right, we'll see if that's the case. San Francisco does have a lot of picks, even though they traded a few in that deal. But we'll see. And they did a pretty good job of resigning a lot of their key guys. Few of them left, but interesting enough, today, as of today, Robert Saleh and the New York Jets have not stolen one 49er.
That's crazy.
Isn't it?
Maybe that was part of the contract.
Yeah, crazy. Atlanta's next. And boy, this is another what is going to happen. Kevin Knight from the Falcoholic, I know you love that website. He was on the show a few days ago with me, and we went over this. He strongly believes it's going to be a quarterback. He says he's about 80% sure it's going to be a quarterback. And now he's a big Fields guy. But again, like you said, that doesn't necessarily mean that's where Atlanta is going to go. So it's probably going to be Fields or Lance to Atlanta. There is a possibility they trade down. That could happen as well. But taking a quarterback, what that says is, I guess Matt Ryan had. I don't know because picking a guy at 4 as opposed to what Green Bay did with Love is different. I don't think you could pick the quarterback there and expect that he's not going to start by 2022.
I would agree with you 100%. No, if you pick him, it's a 1 year, especially if it's Trey Lance, it makes sense to give him a redshirt year and then hand over the reins. Now, Matt Ryan's contract makes some sense to move on from him next year financially. But I wouldn't rule out Kyle Pitts here. I would not rule out. I know you mentioned trading down. I know you mentioned quarterback. I would not rule out Kyle Pitts.
Matter of fact, that's what Kevin said. He said if it's not a quarterback, he says Pitts is the first guy. He said Sewell would be the guy after that.
But they won't get to that point. No. They'll have their choice of the top non-quarterback.
Yeah. So we'll see. But Atlanta, they've and look, it's a new regime too, and you know how it is. They want their own guy, but you know what's going to happen. Even Atlanta, the amount of money that they're going to lose at some point when they finally move on from Matt Ryan in the next year is going to be a lot of money. They're going to have a lot of dead cap space on their books. So I wonder, if they don't go with a quarterback, though, something does happen. Let's say they take Pitts, or let's say they trade down and don't take a quarterback, then I wouldn't really even be that shocked because Matt Ryan, with a good team around him, might have another 3 more years left.
No, I agree. Quarterbacks are playing later than ever. No, I don't think Matt Ryan's finished by any means.
Okay, next, let's go to the Detroit Lions. And the Detroit Lions do not have a lot of draft picks.
And they need a lot of players.
They need a lot of players, and they have a new GM. So trading down would seem to make a lot of sense, especially since they're not taking a quarterback. They're going to give Goff a year at least to see if he could be the guy. And then the question, I see teams saying, hey, Detroit, I see a lot of these mock drafts with wide receiver. And here's the thing. And not just because of the old regime, but taking a wide receiver when you have so many needs just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'm sorry. We saw Detroit do this years ago. I know, like I said, I know it's a different regime, but if you're going to pick a wide receiver, you might as well definitely trade down. But I can't see Detroit staying there and picking a receiver.
If it's Jamar Chase, I can, because I think Jamar Chase has Julio Jones level talent, like Hall of Fame, all decade caliber talent. So I can see Jamar Chase. I can't see staying there for Jalen Waddle or Devonta Smith if somebody wants to trade up. I can see it there for Chase. I could see staying there and picking Micah Parsons. But you're right. I think that Detroit kind of gets lumped in as like, well, Matt Millen drafted Carlos Rogers, Mike Williams, and Roy Williams back to back. That's 100 years ago. So Jamar Chase is a guy who he could bring some energy to that franchise. He could be the new face of the Lions, and you want to do right by Jared Goff, and obviously that means protecting him and getting him weapons. So I could see Chase, I could see Parsons, I could see a trade down if somebody wants to give up a first rounder next year to get up and get their quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a team that desperately needs more draft picks. There's just no question about that. So, and I will talk to Jeff Risdon, who covers the Detroit Lions. They have a very popular YouTube channel, Detroit Lions podcast. So he will be my guest tomorrow, and I'll find out in depth what the Detroit Lions are thinking about doing with that first pick. Okay, let's go to Carolina, and they got the quarterback. So Sam Darnold, that took care of that. I'm sure they would have preferred one of the stars, but they at least now can use this pick on something other than a quarterback.
Yeah, or they could trade down.
They could trade down.
If the Lions don't trade down, the Panthers are certainly a trade down candidate. Look, Sam Darnold has better weapons than he ever had with the Jets, with McCaffrey and DJ Moore. So he already has better weapons. I think it makes a lot of sense here is to get a left tackle and plug him right in there opposite Moton, who they franchise tagged at right tackle. I think if Sewell's here and maybe if Rashawn Slater's here, that's very likely the Panthers pick.
Yeah, there's some look, and then we'll see what they look. I don't even know if the deal's been closed yet, because I haven't heard anything at all regarding whether or not Russell Okung would come back. So that if that were to happen before the draft, that could mean something. But Moton's a right tackle, so he's not moving to left tackle.
No, so you would get Slater or Sewell at left tackle, or like you said, if Russell Okung comes back, then you could be looking at Patrick Surtain, I think.
And also, here's a team, by the way. I don't know if he'll slip, but boy, would Kyle Pitts look good at Carolina. They have such a bad tight end room. I mean, we talked about teams that would be a luxury like Atlanta and the Dolphins, but here's Detroit. I mean, Detroit had, I believe, they had less than, I believe, 30 receptions from their entire tight end unit last year. That's how bad that group was. So Carolina needs a tight end. Kyle Pitts, he ain't getting past Carolina. All right, Dallas Cowboys.
First of 3 straight NFC East picks.
Ooh, succession. And this
which makes me think the Eagles and Howie Roseman, who loves a trade, is going to try to jump to somewhere 7, 8, 9 to get ahead of the Cowboys and jump.
Oh, there you go. The Detroit Lions.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's very likely Howie Roseman's not done trading.
Okay, Eagles and the Lions. That's the trade. That's our prediction. The trade right here, Detroit and Philly.
Or the Panthers, 7 or 8. Yeah.
All right, so if Dallas makes this pick, look, they need to get better on defense. They gave up a team record 473 points last year. That's just bad. So
Surtain or Slater make the most sense. The offensive line's getting a little bit older. It was obviously the best in the game there for a 5-year period. It's getting a little older, breaking down. So Slater could make a lot of sense on the offensive line, but like you said, that defense was awful last year. They put a lot of stock into Dan Quinn as their new coordinator, but as you and I have talked about, it's Jimmy's and Joe's, so not necessarily X's and O's. So they need a corner. I think Patrick Surtain makes a lot of sense there. I think they're the team that maybe got hurt the worst by Caleb Farley falling down first-round boards with his injury status, because I think if there were 2 top corners there, Farley and Surtain, I think you could have pegged one of them into Dallas.
And they only added the lineman from Buffalo. Dallas did, so they have more work to do, because last year with the injury situation, they played the undrafted rookie Terrence Steele, They had to play. Well, Joe Looney's now gone. He started 12 games for them at center, but they got the kid from Wisconsin now that's going to step in and start, barring injury. Collins had hip surgery last year, didn't play at all at right tackle. And of course, Tyron Smith had neck surgery and only played 2 games. So you have to have insurance on the offensive line in case these guys, because they're starting to get old too.
Yep.
All right. Next up is your New York Giants. So, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I could spend an hour on this pick alone, Greg. Look, the Giants' biggest need, far and away, it's a ocean-sized gap between edge rusher and everything else. But I don't think there's an edge rusher worthy of the number 11 pick.
No.
So would they like to trade down? They would. Dave Gettleman, in 54 draft picks as a general manager of the Panthers and Giants, has traded down this many times. That's a 0. He has never traded down. Joe Judge comes from the Patriots, where they trade down all the time. So I think the Giants would like to trade down from 11 because edge rusher feels like a stretch. But it also, they could save edge rusher for round 2, maybe target a Ronnie Perkins or somebody like that in round 2 and get Daniel Jones another weapon, especially if they have their choice of Devonta Smith or Jalen Waddle at 11.
Okay. So defense, it's pass rusher, and you're saying offense, it's a wide receiver.
I think so, because I don't think Slater will be there. If Slater's there, I've already mentioned him for enough teams. If Slater's there at 11, the Giants would have to seriously consider him at 11.
Okay. And who is going to start now for them at right guard?
Right now, left guard and right guard are 2 recent draft picks. Will Hernandez, who got benched last year, and Shane Lemieux, and was a 6th-round pick last year.
So one of those guys will end up. But that's the
Slater could replace that guy for now, and then possibly move to right tackle later in his career.
All right. Yeah. And right tackle, is it possible Pert starts week 1?
Matt Parrott and Nate Solder position battle.
And Nate Solder will definitely be back.
He's back. Yep, on a contract, on a reworked contract.
Okay. And who's the backup quarterback for the team?
Mike Lennon.
That's right, Mike Lennon. All right. Wide receiver or edge rusher? With edge rusher definitely being the number 1 need for the Giants. The Eagles, see whether they are able to trade up or not.
Yep.
What do you think? The Philadelphia Eagles.
I mean, they picked Rager last year. That was supposed to. You shouldn't have to pick round 1 receivers back-to-back years. But Rager, didn't really do much. The Eagles have had such a hit-and-miss history with wide receivers.
They need more wide receivers for sure.
I guess Waddle or Smith should be there, if not both. So one of them should be there, and they could certainly do that. I think their dream would be Kyle Pitts to be there, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay. Yeah, no.
And don't rule out Micah Parsons. I wouldn't rule out Micah Parsons there either.
Yeah, because they need more run stoppers in their front 7 for sure. So, yeah, somebody that can help him in that category. All right. But definitely, I hear what you're saying about Rager, but, hey, you know what? Their receiver situation, even if Rager plays well, is just not very – it's weak. Yep. It's bad. Yep. All right. Minnesota Vikings.
Left tackle.
That's – oh, you just threw that out there real quick. You had no problem.
Yeah, it's one of the most obvious needs, I think, in the whole first round is Vikings offensive tackle. And I think they're going to have to cross their fingers and hope that Christian Darrisaw, who's kind of the 3rd tackle, I think the hope that he slips to 14, I think he probably will. I think that's probably, almost like we said last year, the 49ers and Kinlaw was such an obvious marriage at whatever it was, 12 or 13. I think Darrisaw and the Vikings at 14 makes so much sense. They could go edge rusher, they could go safety, but I think Darrisaw makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah, and keep in mind, they had a couple of major injuries last year on defense, Hunter and Barr. So that was big. They played a lot of young guys last year. They had a ton of draft picks. But that offensive line has got to get better and give Cousins a little time to throw the football. We know he doesn't have much mobility. Cook is a superstar right now. So they have to take advantage of that because that window for those superstar running backs are very small.
Yep.
Yeah, defense for the Vikings outside of the offensive tackle, though. Definitely do whatever you can to keep bolstering up that defense. All right, next up, Arizona. And the Arizona Cardinals with the J.J. Watt. And they added Malcolm Butler also on defense. And to the offensive line, they made the trade with Las Vegas for Rodney Hudson. They picked up Brian Winters along the offensive line as well. And James Conner is the number one running back now for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah. Seems like corner's the obvious spot. They lost Patrick Peterson. They didn't replace him. Seems like that's the obvious number one spot. Farley, I said the Cowboys were hurt by Caleb Farley slipping. The Cardinals are certainly hurt by Caleb Farley switching. Falling. They could take that chance because I think there's a lot of boom or bust there. If J.C. Horn is available, I think that's a much more safe, comfortable pick. That's about where he should go, the middle of the first round. So my pick probably for now would be J.C. Horn for the Cardinals.
The Cardinals could also use a tight end at some point in this draft.
Yeah, but that's not a round one. Maybe a Hunter Long or a Freiermuth, but Hunter Long in round 3, if he's still there, I think makes a lot of sense for the Cardinals.
Yeah, and
the pass tight end.
And the offensive line seems to be okay, so they've done a pretty good job. Humphreys became an elite tackle. They like Josh Jones, their third-round pick from last year. The ex-Giant Justin Pugh's there. So they've done a pretty good job upgrading the offensive line. So, yeah, they got to get a little bit better on defense. But, I think you hit it right there, especially cornerback. Okay, next up, let's go to the Washington football team.
Fascinating.
And Alex Smith is done.
Yeah. I hope it's because he wanted to be done and not because he couldn't find a job, because he's still better than some of the guys out there. Look, he had an unprecedented career, right? Like, number one draft pick, written off as a bust. Like, this guy's, Aaron Rodgers. He's no Aaron Rodgers. He's a bust. He can't play. Comes back, leads them to the NFC Championship game, to the cusp of a Super Bowl, then loses his job again to Colin Kaepernick, then gets traded, leads the Chiefs to the playoffs, loses his job to Mahomes, gets traded, career life-threatening injury, comeback, leads Washington to the playoffs. I mean, what a storybook career. Forget 30 for 30. They should make a Disney movie on Alex Smith.
Hey, why not? It's too bad that he wasn't able to get it done, though. Hoist that trophy. Then it would have been a movie.
Yeah, but I mean, I just can't think of anybody who's overcame more things. The bust label. I mean, shoot, and if it was now, he'd be. I don't even know that he would have got a second chance. He was written off by like 2007, and then he's still playing in 2020.
Yep. Yeah, he's a guy that probably deserves a little bit more, but he lasted and he did it. And he, like you said, it does appear that he's walking out on his own. So at least there's that. By the way, Washington's second leading receiver last year was a tight end, and their third leading receiver was a running back. So they go out and get Curtis Samuel, which was nice. Hopefully Adam Humphries is healthy. So they've added a couple of weapons, but I still think they got to add maybe at least one more top premium weapon on offense.
Yep, or an offensive lineman or a linebacker. Look, I wrote about this in the Post. I think there's a chance Micah Parsons tumbles down the board. 19 would be really late. That'd be panic central. But if there's a team that's going to take a chance and say, "Oh, this guy's talent is too good," we'll worry about the culture aspect later. I can't see. To me, 19 is Micah Parsons' floor. That's where he would go. But offensive line makes sense there too.
So they need a corner, definitely. William Jackson was a really nice pickup, no question about that. But they need some more depth, basically, back there. Landon Collins, there was even some talk about moving him to linebacker.
Mm-hmm. There was always that talk with the Giants, too.
Because this team just does not have good linebacker depth. And look, it's good that they run a 4-3, but they still have to add a couple linebackers. It's not going to be with their first pick, but they have to add some linebackers. And what do you think? I mean, at quarterback,
It's possible they could be a trade up team, but 19-8. I mean, you're giving up a first rounder plus. So, I think they'll probably let Ryan Fitzpatrick be the quarterback for this year.
so what are they at 19?
Yeah.
All right. Well, what about Kellen Mond?
Too early.
Well, I know it's too early, but I mean,
too early. No. If you want Kellen Mond, trade back to 32.
maybe they will. Okay, we'll keep an eye on that. I mean, do you think Washington does go through this draft without like a quarterback then?
I mean, you and I have had this debate before. To me, it's stupid to just pick a second or third round quarterback. Like, it's dumb. Yeah, I know. Throw Russell Wilson in my face or Dak Prescott in my face, but I'll throw 100 in your face. That it never works out to pick that mid-round quarterback because by the time you want to give him a chance, you're going to end up picking a first-round quarterback. So, it doesn't make sense. I'm not a fan of it. Do I think they go through the draft without a quarterback? No. I think they probably end up with, Kyle Trask or somebody in the third or fourth round. But do I think he ever really gets a chance to start? No, because Fitzpatrick will be the starter this year. Then next year they'll probably be terrible, and they'll pick a first-round pick in 2023, and Kyle Trask will be like, what just happened?
All right, the Chicago Bears. The Bears. Speaking of quarterbacks, old quarterbacks, they made the deal for Andy Dalton. So they could be on the lookout for one of those quarterbacks. Other than that, other than the obvious, what do you think about the Bears?
I don't think they can move up to get a quarterback. I mean, I think they're kind of in win now. They're kind of in win now mode. So drafting a quarterback doesn't make a lot of sense. I think they need to help Andy Dalton. So offensive line makes sense. Wide receiver makes sense. It's been Allen Robinson and the who's those guys for too long. So I think it's certain you could see a Kadarius Toney there or Terrace Marshall, somebody like that. I think get another weapon makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they need some speed. They got to stretch the field. They did a bad job of that last year. They get Eddie Goldman back after he opted out, so that's big. The defense is still solid. They lose Kyle Fuller to Denver, and they really haven't replaced him. So and Buster Screen is also a free agent, so cornerback is definitely near the top of the list, and they also haven't replaced Tashawn Gibson yet. He's still a free agent. Safety.
Mm-hmm.
All right, New Orleans Saints.
That's a big jump from 20 to 27, 20 to 28 in the NFC.
Oh, all AFC in there, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
So we're near the bottom of the first round already. And it looks like this is going to be, look, Breeze is gone and his, 20 years? 20 years. Same team.
Yep.
Gone. Hill, looks like he'll be the starting quarterback. They got Winston there. Kamara, it's interesting. Kamara led the team last year with 107 targets and receptions and yards. You know how bad it is when your running back leads the team in receiving yards?
Well, Michael Thomas had that weird year, right, where he was injured, and then he was fighting with teammates.
Yeah,
reports.
He had to fight with that Gardner dude that fights everybody.
You got to think Michael Thomas, that was an exception, and Michael Thomas is going to be one of the top 3 receivers in the NFL again. So I wouldn't.
But there's no Drew Brees.
Well, let me rephrase that. One of the top 3 targeted receivers in the NFL.
Yeah, he had no touchdowns left.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Whether it's Winston or Hill, they're going to throw the ball to Michael Thomas. I don't know how many they're going to complete, but they're going to throw it to Michael Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, look, they have some good depth with Granderson and Davenport now that they've lost Trey Hendrickson. But I could see them definitely going back to the defensive line because they lost Malcolm Brown, Sheldon Rankins, and Trey Hendrickson, and they didn't replace any of them. So defensive line is definitely and linebacker, that's something to keep an eye on too. Not a priority early though. And they lost Janoris Jenkins, and they have not yet replaced him either.
Yep. we haven't really thrown out any of the edge rusher names. No, I mean if guys like Rousseau are there, I think Jalen Phillips will be gone by then. Um, uh, could some of those guys sneak into the first round? I guess so. Like a Joe Tyron, could he slip into the end of the first round? The end of the first round is always kind of
you
a
always get
crapshoot.
these weird guys that slip into the first round. Yeah.
I'll never forget being floored when Rashad Penny was a first round pick for the Seattle a couple
Seattle's
years ago.
infamous for that. John Schneider always taking these guys like third round guys that go into the first round. Yeah. Effetti was one of those guys, wasn't he? I think Effetti was a few years back. All right, Green Bay's next. And the Green Bay Packers have added exactly 0 impact free agents this year. None.
It's like they're playing a game of like, how can we piss off Aaron Rodgers the most?
So we're back to where we were last year. They need to get another wide receiver. They have to get somebody else because Aaron Jones is back, so that's huge. But
wide receiver or corner, they need somebody on the perimeter. They need to defend receivers and they need to beat corners. So those are the two needs.
You don't trust Kevin King?
No, I think whether it's like we said, Tony or Marshall, somebody like that, or Greg Newsome is a name we haven't thrown out. I don't know if he'll get past.
Absolutely.
I don't know if he'll get past the Jets at 23, but if he does at 20, if he's still there at 29 for the Packers, that makes a lot of sense too.
Joe Barry will be the new defensive coordinator, former Rams linebacker coach. So the Packers will have a new defensive coordinator. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it definitely, we agree. Looks like it's going to be probably corner and wide receiver, top 2 needs for the Packers. Tampa Bay. Speaking of teams that did not add any impact free agents, but they didn't have to.
They just brought everybody back.
Because they brought everybody back. The only guy that they did add was Giovanni Bernard, the running back from Cincinnati. And the only player of significance they lost was Joe Haig. That's it.
Yeah. Did Fournette go back? Fournette's gone, right?
Actually, where is Fournette? It's a good question.
I think that's why they brought in Bernard.
Yeah, but where is Fournette?
It's very interesting. The Bucs are interesting. Like you said, they brought the whole band back together. It's basically the same team. They're going to just basically be playing game number 21 next year after whatever they played, 16, 19, 20 games this last year. So it's game number 21 next year. Pick up where they left off. I don't know. They'll probably draft Julian Edelman, right? That's probably what they'll do. Whoever is the most Edelman-like, they'll just put on the team. So I don't know. Very interesting. I wouldn't, probably edge rusher if I'm being serious. If I stop joking around for a sec, probably edge rusher is a place they should go.
Yeah, I could see. Yeah, I mean, when you have 2 guys. Look, Pierre-Paul's getting a little older. Barrett's your stud guy. David's getting a little older at inside, but primarily, when you run a 3-4, you need some more pass rushers, no question. You can't rely, even on the defensive line, you can't rely like an Ndamukong Suh having that type of year that he had last year. And in the secondary, that's also something where they could probably add another corner to the mix.
Yeah. How about the kid from Tulsa, Collins, right?
Yes. Zaven Collins.
Makes a lot of sense for the Bucs too.
I think Fournette's still on Tampa Bay.
Okay.
Which is really, I don't know. I mean, it's just amazing. We talked about this. Antonio Brown and Ndamukong Suh, Leonard Fournette. I mean, they win a Super Bowl with that group. That's not good. That's not good. That's bad. All right, LA Rams. We go to the 2 teams that do not have first-round draft picks, both from the NFC West. And the Rams, it was all about Matthew Stafford.
Yep, the Rams loaded up. The Rams never have a first-round pick. The last time the Rams had a first-round pick, I was like 23. I mean, who was the Rams' last first-round pick? It was Jared Goff, right? Okay. I mean, I don't think they've had a first-round pick since like 2015.
They have some needs. I mean, they lost Brockers, Hill, Fox and Johnson, and Epgubam on defense.
Yeah, they could use some front 7 help.
And they lost Blythe, their starting center, and their number 2 tight end, Everett, on offense.
Landon Dickerson's the best center. coming off an injury. He could he'll be gone by the time they pick. There's the kid from Wisconsin, Whitewater. The division.
Oh yeah, that guy. Yeah,
Quinn Mertz or
he
something.
He was definitely
There's always a Division III offensive lineman who ends up standing out in the Senior Bowl. He could make sense for them, but I think they'll probably end up going front seven help.
Yes, because Matthew Stafford needs to stay healthy. He's not an athlete. He's already starting to break down a little bit. You made a big trade for him. Protect the man, because Whitworth, I mean, he's coming off the MCL, and he's like, isn't he like 40 or something like that?
Yeah.
So you can't count on him much longer. He hasn't like retired or anything. So, and like I said, they lost Blythe, which means they have, I know that, I don't know if Allen's just going to move in, but that's center might be a very important part of, and they have a new offensive line coach, Kevin Carberry, replaces their offensive line coach that was there for a while.
Yeah, I don't know much about him. Yeah.
All right. And then Seattle. So, Seattle, as we told you, months ago, Russell Wilson wasn't going anywhere. And what's that?
That's how many picks they have in this draft.
Oh, I thought they had 4. Just 3?
I think it's 3. Maybe it's 4.
I think it's 4.
But either way, that is unbelievable.
Well, that's Jamal Adams. Part of that.
Huh? They have Jamal Adams. Yeah. They won't be getting much help, I don't think, here. So they need a cornerback, probably. They need an offensive lineman. And I would think they would be wise to appease their quarterback and give him even if it's, where's their first pick? Probably in the 56. Top, probably around 56. Just give him one of those offensive linemen, I would think, is probably the way to go.
Well, yeah, they did add, who they added? They added one of those offensive linemen. I forget his name now. But they had...
Wasn't anybody sexy.
No. But yeah, look, they no question.
They draft an offensive lineman at 56 overall. He'll be starting at one of the 5 positions.
And they could also use to tell you the truth, they can use a number 3 wide receiver. They got Lockett and Metcalf, and that's it.
Yeah, to me it's offensive line or corner.
And they also look, here's the thing, like you said, they only have a few picks, so you would think they have got to trade down to get a couple of extra picks. They have to.
But I don't know if I would trade down at 50, I think I would stay there, pick the offensive line, and maybe try to trade down from the 3rd round, get a couple of 4ths or 5ths. But at 56, I would make sure I got an offensive lineman. I said to Russell Wilson, here you go. This guy is going to be here with you for the next 5 years.
And they also should get another running back. Because
you get
their running back situation just does not stay healthy.
Yeah, but you pick one up in the 7th round or whatever, and
7th, all right.
Some lightning bolt guy.
Maybe their 6th round pick, they can use it on a running backs.
Yeah. Some lightning in a bottle guy.
All right, so we're gonna do a mock draft probably Monday or Tuesday of next week, and then we'll be back on Friday, I believe, Friday morning of the draft. That's 8 so we'll do it early in the morning. I think it's at around 10 a.m. ish on Friday the 30th, which means the show will be available about an hour or 2 after that, which gives you more than enough time before day 2 starts on Friday. And then we'll have our draft recap show on May 30th. That's a Monday afternoon. And
April 30th.
Oh, what, April 30th? Well, April 30th, yes. And then May 3rd for the NFL draft recap.
Yeah, you said May 30th.
Okay.
So does it be a lot after May 30th?
Yeah. That wouldn't be good.
I'll be in hibernation mode on May 30th.
Yeah. What are you working on?
Right now, just draft, just trying to find whatever nuggets you can get.
Better start working on that Rutgers recruiting class.
I don't do much Rutgers anymore, I suppose.
Keep it going, baby. It's early. There's still an opportunity. I want the creme de la creme. I want them to go, and Rutgers has just signed a 5-star.
Yeah. They've had their couple of 5-stars, Darius Hamilton, and they've had a couple
5-stars have never lived up to 5-star status.
Oh, that's not me.
Remember that offensive lineman a couple years ago that never did anything?
Yeah, those are recruiting rankings.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. That's what I like about Shiano's recruiting style. We
do the draft here, and if you think that's a bit of a crapshoot, protecting a 16-year-old is much more difficult.
Exactly. All right, sounds good, Ryan. We will check everything out at the Post, NewYorkPost.com. Of course, the sports section, because you haven't moved over to the political section yet.
Yeah, you'll never see me in politics.
Thank goodness for that. And we'll talk to you again next week when we do a mock draft.
Sounds good.
Ryan.